Underwater photographers create images that show us what the underwater world is all about. Amanda Cotton is an underwater photographer who specializes in shark photography and creates fabulous images of these amazing creatures.
My name is Amanda Cotton. I am the principal photographer for A Cotton Photo Creative Works. We are a media-based company specializing in marine conservation. I also do freelance work for many major publications around the world that focus on marine conservation issues. My educational background is I have an undergraduate degree in professional photography from Brooks Institute of Photography in Santa Barbara, California. I went through the Ernie Brooks program, the Underseas program there. Ernie Brooks is one of the pioneers in the sport. He is very well known for black and white underwater photography, and I wanted to emulate what he was doing with his work and try to do something with that professionally with mine. In the early beginnings of my career, topside, I was working as a camera assistant to establish myself in the commercial market. And then when I went into underwater photography, I worked quite a bit with some of the pioneers in the sport, like Michael Au, who brought me on as a camera assistant to location shoots around the world and really mentored me through the process. He was vital in my beginning stages as an underwater photographer. So shooting photography underwater is different than shooting photography topside in a lot of regards, but it's also very similar. The differences in shooting underwater is you have housing that goes around your camera itself that protects the camera and any of your equipment from water. You also have different lighting, different strobes that you use underwater than you do topside. And there's also lighting issues themselves that you have to contend with. The light underwater plays and reacts completely differently than the light that you would use topside and utilize that way. You also have your skills as a diver that you have to worry about and contend with. If you're not a good diver itself, you're not going to be able to focus on your photography and getting that shot. Underwater photography is a very interesting industry. You certainly have to have a skill set in being able to shoot underwater, but you also have to be able to have a marketing background. You have to have a business background to make it in this industry. You have to be able to be multifunctional, and in this new digital age, you absolutely have to have an expertise in post-production work, which is anything from Adobe Photoshop programs, Lightroom programs, anything that you're doing your darkroom work that used to be in an actual darkroom, you're now doing it on the computer. So computer skills are phenomenally important. Underwater photographers are very lucky. We get to travel all over the world to different places that most people only dream about. I've been to the Red Sea, I've been to the Philippines, Indonesia, Antarctica. We really are blessed in that respect. The downside of that, though, is I'm traveling 1 to 2 weeks per month, which really makes it difficult on family. It is an extensive amount of time to be away from home. So I work mostly with my own company, which is A Cotton Photo, and we really are a marine conservation-based company. So all of our dealings within the industry are with other conservation companies, organizations, people. We really want to push a message across that is a marine-based, particularly shark conservation message to get out there, to try to share this beauty of this world, share it with the general public so that they can understand how beautiful it is and know that it's in a lot of trouble right now and it really needs our saving and our protection. It's funny because when I'm on assignments, people think it's this glamorous life that you're out there and you're traveling the world, which is fantastic, and it is very true, but we have long hours. We're up very early to get the shots sometimes. We're working 14, 16-hour days. We have long travel, we have delays, we have airport after airport that we're going through to get to the locations that we are. It's very little time that we spend actually underwater. There's more time on boats, in taxis, in airports, on planes. You're working with an art director, a creative director, putting ideas together. So much time is focused on that as opposed to our very little time that we actually have underwater trying to collect shots. So in underwater photography, it really helps to stand out from the crowd. You really have to market yourself and push yourself in a way that makes your work different from others. How I try to do that personally in my style is really hone in on the skills that I learned at Brooks Institute of Photography on the technical side and really focus on my lighting aspects of my work. For me personally, I don't just think of myself as a photographer, I think of myself as an artist. So every time I go down to take a picture, I'm trying to create a piece of art with every frame that I take. I think one of the most exciting aspects to being an underwater photographer for myself is the fact that I can take something I'm so passionate about, sharks in particular, and share a side of them that mainstream media typically doesn't share with them. I adore sharks, so I want to show them or portray them in a light that isn't typically seen, and share that with the general public so that they can see a side of sharks that I see and have them fall in love with them as much as I love them. And typically when we go out on assignment for a photo shoot for a magazine or some other network, we usually have anywhere from 2 to 5 people that come out with us. We have a main shooter, we have camera assistants that come out, we sometimes have an art director, a creative director come out, and a project manager come out as well. There are other times too that I go out on assignment and I'm just by myself. I think the most difficult aspect to doing this job, to being an underwater photographer, is the time away from home. We are gone for extensive periods of time, extensive blocks of time. But for me personally, it's been the most difficult to see the progression, the demise of our oceans. Going on assignments 5-10 years ago are different than now. We see the reefs that I was seeing that were healthy, they're slowly progressing and into more damage, and you see more coral dying off, you see lower fish populations, and trying to bring in a conservation side aspect to our work. I think all of us in the industry are doing this so that we can protect the oceans has really become the focus of a lot of our work in the field. So the amount of equipment that we take out on assignments is very dependent on what type of assignment it is. If I'm going out on an editorial shoot, say to the Red Sea by myself, I may only take 5 or 6 suitcase-sized bags. Because of our job and having to do it underwater, we have lots of equipment. We have cameras and lenses and lights and housing. So it's a very equipment-extensive job. But if we're doing an assignment work with a larger team, we may have anywhere of upwards of 20-30 bags that we're taking with us, which can make the logistics of getting all of those bags to these very remote locations that we're going to shoot in very problematic, and actually creates lots of very funny stories. Being that I spend the majority of my time underwater and in the ocean, it really opens up the potential to have dangerous situations present themselves. The fact that I focus on sharks in particular, they are wild animals, they can be unpredictable, so I really have to be respectful and not get complacent while I'm shooting so that nothing ever happens that not only hurts me but would hurt a shark's reputation and damage all the work that I'm trying to do. I'm also on shoots with alligators, so being in the water with the 10-11 foot alligator, it's very similar. Again, it's a wild animal, you have to be very aware of your surroundings, but so far I haven't had any bad luck. I think most people would assume that as an underwater photographer, your highest achievement or your biggest accolade that you're trying to go after is a cover of a major magazine or a big assignment shoot or showing up on television. For me, none of that. Those things are nice, but it's not the most important thing. It's not the one thing I'm trying to achieve most. What I most care about is getting my message, getting my love for these animals, for the ocean, across to kids. So when I'm going out and doing presentations to kids, to see them going from ho-hum interested in what I'm doing, the pictures that I'm showing of sharks, to at the end of the presentations coming up and wanting to dive and excited and wanting to stay in contact and do what I do. That's the biggest achievement I have. That is what makes me smile. That is why I continue to do what I do and go out there. If there's anybody out there that's thinking about wanting to get into a career of underwater photography or this industry, the dive industry in general, I think you need to be very aware that there are many facets to this industry, that there are many facets to the job, that you have to be multi-talented in many different respects: computers, public speaking, marketing, business, whatever skill set you're trying to go for. If it's photography, you have to be the very best, you have to be unique. There's all of that. There's so much that's encompassed in making it and doing this successfully in this industry. You have to be determined, you have to be passionate about it, you have to be willing to not get paid for years and years. You have to want this really bad, otherwise it's just not going to happen. So determination, faith, a passion, all those things are going to get you very far.